For more on President-elect Trump's transition to the White House, we are joined by former senior advisor to both President-elect Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, Steve Cortes. Steve, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Thank you, Anita. Great to see you.
Yep. So it is a very exciting time in Washington. Everybody jockeying for a position in this new administration. A number of people being considered. But President Trump's first pick is a historic one. The first woman, Susie Wiles, to take on the chief of staff role. I did have some interaction with her when I was a local reporter in Florida years ago. Everybody knew her to be a straight shooter and a gatekeeper at that time for the mayor of Jacksonville. What do you expect her to bring to this role in the White House?
Well, look, let me first say that Susie Wiles has more than earned this incredible opportunity because of what she did as the architect and strategist behind the biggest Republican win since the 1980s. And I would add not just this race, but what she's done in the state of Florida, a place that used to be a swing state, used to be a nail biter, and is no longer. She's largely responsible for that, for the state of Florida being so reliably red. What I think she's going to bring to the White House is what she did during the campaign. If you noticed, Anita, what she did, which is what good campaign managers do, she was behind the scenes. She never became the story herself. Those same attributes make for a good chief of staff, meaning that she will be a manager and a delegator who exercises power, but does it in a way where they don't become part of the spotlight. And I think that's what she'll bring to the White House, that kind of order and discipline, and also that humility of somebody who doesn't necessarily need to get the credit or to be in front of cameras, but will be that kind of effective manager that Trump and Vance need in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that is certainly her reputation, and what rare qualities to have in politics, right? What about some of the other positions? Let's take a look at some familiar faces being mentioned. There you see a number of people that are being talked about right now. I want to ask you about Marco Rubio. His name is being floated around for Secretary of State, a man of Hispanic heritage. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, I love the idea of Hispanics getting really senior spots, but in my view, Marco Rubio, who I think has been an excellent senator for Florida, is not well suited for this. He's too much of a neocon, too much of an interventionist for my liking. And when we look at the coalition that brought Trump and Vance to power, not just on the voting side, but also in terms of the political allies that they earned throughout this race, I really believe that there is a thirst in the country for a foreign policy of realism and restraint. And Marco Rubio, in my view, is too much of the old school Lindsey Graham Republican school of interventionism. So I hope that President Trump will make another selection. But of course, I trust that he's going to make the best decisions in the end for the people.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for that candid, honest answer. And yeah, there are other names certainly floating around. I want to turn quickly to something that a lot of people are talking about in the wake of this election, and that is the Hispanic vote. I think Trump had record numbers here. Let's bring up, look at this. So this is the overall national Hispanic vote. Harris took 56%, so still well ahead, but Trump took 41%. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on that? What was it that really enticed the Hispanic vote to go towards Trump?
Sure. And, let me just say that this movement among Hispanics rallying to the America First cause and to President Trump individually, this is really the jet fuel behind patriotic populism right now. And I think there's two factors primarily. The first is economic. The inflation has ravaged a lot of Americans, the inflation of Kamala Harris and Bidenomics, but it's been particularly painful for Hispanics, who are overwhelmingly, statistically, a working class demographic. So they suffered disproportionately from the economic failures of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. But I think the second aspect is more cultural. Hispanics thankfully recognize that there are two sexes, and we as a people, as a culture, we elevate both authentic femininity and authentic masculinity. The Democrat Party, Kamala Harris, the Obamas, they have become a party and a ruling class movement that largely demonizes men, that tries to make boys and young men in particular feel guilty for being authentically masculine. Well, bad hombres across the United States have revolted against that. And you showed those Hispanic numbers, which were strong overall. But of course, President Trump won Hispanic men. So in many ways, this was a political revolt of men, of black men, brown men, all men saying, we're tired of being demonized. Our masculinity is a gift to our families and to the country, and something that should be celebrated rather than castigated. So I think those two factors, the cultural and the economic, combined to create a real groundswell and something that's just incredibly exciting for Republicans and conservatives going forward, because, of course, Hispanics are the biggest and fastest growing demographic minority in America, also the youngest demographic in America. So that portends for a lot more gains into the future.
Yeah, and they are 10% of the voting population, I believe. I just want to put up just a couple more numbers to compare how much better Trump did with Hispanics than he had in years past. Look at this. So against Biden, he was only 34%. And I think we have one more graphic to show on Latino Hispanic voters. Here you go. Look at this. So he did gain 6 points. You know, his message was largely the same. So just quickly, you got about 15 seconds for you. What was it that put him over the top with Latino voters? And do you think this will continue?
It will continue, and it's two things. The radicalism of the Democrat Party has made many Hispanics into political orphans. But secondly, Hispanics are increasingly rallying to the masculinity and the political strength of Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, we will see. But certainly interesting data to comb over from this election, especially when it comes to that Latino vote. Steve Cortes, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Anita.